speak anybody's name here because we are recording it. Okay, there is a question here. Where does the concept of chakras come from originally? So, as you know, we have a system of body and mind. We are the owner of it. And in Atharya, there is a description of this system. It is mentioned as Ashtachakra, Navadvaya, Devapuji, etc. So this is a system that has been characterized as Devapuji. Pu is a space that is occupied by Purush. Purush is me, the self, that ultimate seat of consciousness. I am the owner of this. This is also called Ayodhya Devapuji. So the body system that we all have is called as Ayodhya. Ayodhya means something that cannot be won over, or nobody can victoriously own it. It's like my castle. Somebody can throw me out of the castle by killing me, but nobody can occupy it. So in that sense, this is called Ayodhya, and this is also called as Devapuji. We are being assured that even the noblest people had the same kind of system, the body system, that is Devapuji. And then it is said there are nine entrances to it, that is Navadvaya, namely 2 eyes, 2 ears, and so forth. And then the first term is Ashtachakra. So 8 chakras are there. So the concept of chakras originally comes from the Vedas, which has a very high level of authority in our hierarchy of Vedic literature. Now, what this chakra exactly means is interpreted by different people in a different manner. My personal understanding is there are so many glands, we have all kinds of glands in the body, such as pancreas and pituitary. They are so, in medical terms, we know it, they are located in different parts of the body, and there is a certain very minuscule amount of secretion from those glands, certain hormones, etc. That is to maintain the balance and growth of the body system time. So there is a mechanism here which is more or less automated. We personally don't do anything to it, and certain hormones and certain things are secreted by these glands, and they give rise to a balance in our health. So concept of chakras is quite real. It has a lot to do with how does our body function, and it is much hidden, so to say, but deep in meditation, I am sure, because meditation, very high quality of meditation, I mean, it makes a correct kind of adjustment where the foundations of my body and mind exist, where the me and my mind and my body are brought together. That is called Hridaya Granthi. There is a knot which has tied up me with my mind and subsequently to my body. They are very subtle in nature, but deep in meditation, they are, I personally believe it, that at the very foundation level, certain corrections are made and things become naturally the way it should be. So, in the course of our life, certain things go off the equilibrium, but deep in meditation, they are corrected. So, even the functioning of cells maybe maybe uh, is influenced by meditation and maybe by medications also, like thyroid gland. There are all kinds of medicines if somebody's gland is not functioning properly, either on the hypo side or on the hyper side, then there are all kinds of medicines to influence them. So that's the way I will answer this question. I am waiting for your chat box to, if somebody else has a question, can please write it. Or if you want, you can unmute yourself and verbally also can speak it out if you have a question. If somebody is asking, yeah, what do we ask the question about? So the questions are what could be in your mind that has something to do with the Vedic principles. As you know, Vedas are considered as the books of all true knowledge. That's what Maharishi Dayanand has said. वेद सब सत्य विद्याओं का पुस्तक है. So, to tell you the truth, there is nothing that is relevant to our life and is not covered in the Vedas. So, we have titled these sessions as Vedic Principles Question and Answer. So, I think broadly, thing in your mind may have some connection to the Vedic principles. Of course, when I say that, I want to, say, which is very obvious, that we don't want to discuss very mundane things like day-to-day politics and those kind of issues, where there are umpteen platforms for discussion. So we want to confine to serious discussion on Vedic principles. Finally, our objective is to improve our quality of life. Now, there is another question by the same person. The concentration part of the Ashtanga Yoga system, should it be always on a non-moving part, so something static, what is what corresponds to dharana in Ashtanga Yoga? As you probably know it, Ashtanga Yoga has 8 limbs, yam and niyam, which are part of our lifestyle. Then the practice part is asana, pranayam, pratyahar. This is called as Bahirang Yoga, peripheral, or so to say, preparatory things. And then the serious business is dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. So dharana, dhyan, samadhi is called as Antarang Yoga, which is what is a real yoga and meditation attempt to bring our mind to a still and blank state of functioning inactive mind. And here the dharana is maybe translated as concentration. So Patanjali defines this term as deshbandha chittasya dharana. So the commentary by Vyas is saying, he is pointing out certain body locations like the forehead, the tip of the nose, the chin, and maybe this throat where there is a kind of a well, and then the heart, in the sense not quite left side of our chest, not the pumping heart. He is trying to suggest the between the two breasts there is a slight well like a thing, and also the navel area. So he suggests these are the locations where you should focus your mind in as you attempt to go deep in meditation. So in my classes, I usually recommend the forehead part or between the two eyebrows where Indian ladies apply that bindi, something here. So, but they are, it's optional. So there is a lot of freedom here. Some people have interpreted it as it can be outside of our body domain also. But remember, our eyes are closed at that time because it is an inward journey, and uh, this should not be confused with the next step, what is called dhyan. Dhyan, Patanjali's statement is pratyaya ekatanata dhyanam. So pratyaya is something is already in your memory, some kind of a scene which you have observed sometimes in the past, and he is suggesting you superimpose it on your mind skin. So there are two aspects here. If we look at it, concentration and meditation together. So concentration, when we say, place your mind on your forehead, this is not that you are, this is a starting step, placing your mind on the forehead, as if this is your reference point. If you are nowhere else, you are there. But then in the next step, you are given a freedom to superimpose anything that has been there in your mind on your mind skin. So mind, so to say, is placed in your forehead, but you are observing. You are not observing your forehead. You are observing that patyaya, that prototype that you have fixed on your mind skin now. So, then it doesn't have much meaning where your reference point of your mind was. Was it on the forehead? Was it on the chin or on the nose tip? It is not that. That is just a starting point. Then you are expected to get lost into that particular pratyaya prototype, that image that you have superimposed on your mind skin, what is called chitta in yoga darshan terminology. And here I would like to suggest Maharishi Dayanand makes an input. He says that Omkar Japa, that sound, oh, now that sound at a mental level. So, when I said that image, it doesn't have to be visual image. It is 5-dimensional. It could be sight, sound, smell, taste, or touch. So, Maharishi Dayanand is suggesting a sound, but at a mental level. So, in Pratyahara, we recite this sound, which is peripheral yoga. As I said, asan, pranayam, Pratyahara. Pratyahara is peripheral, where you may recite this sound orally, verbally. But then in dharana, you do it mental recitation. And there the baseline, your mind is, so to say, notionally fixed at a location. Actually, mind is not fixed anywhere, but that is just as if you have hooked it someplace. So that the question on dharana is about that, where should I hook my mind? So Patanjali and then his commentator Vyas is suggesting, as I have listed, certain body locations, but having hooked your mind to that location, what should be the content of your mind? The content of your mind is in the next step of dhyan, meditation, and that should have some sort of uniformity. Patanjali is giving a wide freedom there, that anything that is in your memory, you can bring it here and stay focused on it. Ektanta means without any interruptions. But this is where Maharishi Dayanand makes an input in his book called Rigvedadi Bhashya Bhumika. He suggests that this sound, at mental level, please remember that, at mental level, so your mind is reciting it. So when your mind is reciting it uninterruptedly, it becomes meditation. You are lost in this sound. And this is not out of place from Patanjali's instruction, because in his first chapter, he does say, Tasya Vachaka Pranav. Pranav is the name of this sound, and this he says, Tat Japas Tadat Bhavanam. So he is saying this as a efficient method to go into meditation. So Maharishi Dayanand has taken the clue from this and is recommending this, that in your dhyan, meditation, you should be, so it is dharana is you are mentally reciting this sound, but as you are entering into it, obviously there are some interruptions, some thoughts come here and there, but when those thoughts stop coming, then there is no more interruptions, then it is meditation. And then if even this, so to say, this prototype of sound also disappears, then you are in samadhi. That is, now your chitta is blank, so to say. So that is finally the objective. So we always suggest that you do this mental recitation of this sound. Mind is reciting. Your lips don't move at that time. But if there are thoughts are bombarding or once in a while, then you would say you are still in dharana. When the interruptions vanish, there is no more interruptions, then you are in dhyan, that is meditation. Concentration now becomes meditation. And with practice, continuing practice over several days and weeks, you will reach a spot where you will feel that flash, that blank thing. So that blank mind is our objective, whereas the sound of Om is vehicle. So like Mundak Upanishad also says, that it gives a very interesting analogy, that the bow is the pranav, the arrow is myself, and the target is Brahma. So the pranav, the sound is the means like a bow, and then the arrow will go and hit the target correctly. But as you know, the bow will stay here where it was. The finally yoga, the union is between me and that supreme being. So this sound is a vehicle, and but of course we want to stay with this sound and then vanish into nothingness. But it is not nothingness, it is you are in the lap of that supreme being. But it is nothingness in the sense mind now has no business, mind is blank. So there is no material thing present as far as you are concerned. And that is the best analogy is when we are in deep dreamless sleep, sushupti. So in deep dreamless sleep, you are nowhere, is it not? There is nothing in the world. So as far as you are concerned, you are in an empty space. But this samadhi is one is notch above the Shushupti, above deep, dreamless sleep, in the sense you preserve your self-awareness, is it not? So you are there, but there is nothing you are getting to know via your mind. That's what it is. So I hope I have answered this question on concentration, meditation, and so on. Any other question, if somebody has, you can write it. You can open the chat box on the right side and okay. If there is no question, as I said last Monday, there were a long series of questions. So I'll pick up one of them. That question was dharma versus karma. What is the concept of dharma in the Vedic terminology? This term is quite misunderstood, and nowadays you know it. If you go to India, dharma is used as a synonym for religion, which is not the case. So let's try to understand this term. So dharma is basically an inherent characteristic of something. So in Sanskrit grammar, a thing is called as dharmi, where what is a noun, so to say, like wood. So I'm sitting near a wooden desk. This is wood. Wood is a noun word. It is a thing, a visible thing, very much I can see it, is it not? And it has certain characteristics. So wood becomes dharmi in this case, and its characteristics become dharma. There are many other pairs like this in Sanskrit grammar. Instead of dharmi, I could say guni, and its characteristics are then called as guna. And also I could say, instead of dharmi, I could say visheshya, and then its characteristics are called as visheshan. So there are many words, pairs like this, and a classical philosophical pair is nam roop. Nam is the name of a thing, and roop is its characteristic, is it not? So such pairs are there in our philosophy to discuss various things that we want to discuss. So dharma is to be seen as a characteristics of certain things that are inherent to it. Hmm? So everything, like for example, the wood has a characteristic, visible characteristic. One of it floats on water. It doesn't sink in water, is it not? So anybody can do the experiment, take a piece of wood and throw in a water pond and can see, yes, it does not sink in water. So the wood has a dharma that it floats on water, it doesn't sink. So that is an inherent characteristic of dharma. In our philosophy, all the things in the universe, billions of things in the universe, there is a maker of that thing. As I said, the wooden desk is made by a conscious being, namely a carpenter. Similarly, in the Vedic view, the entire universe is made by an infinite consciousness who has many names. One name is Ishwar, so to say, is it not? So Ishwar has many names because it reflects many of his characteristics. So he has the design, he has the knowledge, and based on that knowledge, he has made billions of things, including wood. So he has designed the wood such that wood bears this particular characteristic that it floats on water, is it not? And that is why that Ishwar has a name, Dharma-Raj. Dharma-Raj meaning that he has the ultimate authority to, 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 to ascribe the particular dharma, particular characteristics of all the things, is it not? So nothing can deviate from its characteristics because that is inherent to it. So knowing the dharma, so the word dharma has connotation both in knowledge and action. As a human being, we have 5 sensory organs to acquire knowledge, and we have motor organs to act upon the surroundings. So these are two principal functions of ours: acquisition of knowledge and then performing actions, is it not? So dharma has a connotation both in knowledge as well as action. In the sense, I wish to know the dharma of everything, is it not? That way, this is my knowledge domain. And then I want to know how the everythings behave. What is the dharma of everything? That also is not just the knowledge, it is knowing. For example, coming back to this wood, the wood scientist will say that yes, it floats on water, which is an exhibit characteristics it exhibits, but that happens because its specific gravity is less than 1 or its density is less than 1 gram per cubic centimeter, is it not? So as a scientist, he is telling us because its density is less than 1, it floats on water. So there is a knowledge part of wood, that its density is less, and its behavioral part is it floats on water, is it not? So both knowledge and action are included within this term dharma. Now the question arises, and that's where a lot of confusion is there, particularly in India, with related to this term dharma. If that dharma, that entity, has placed the dharma of all the things in the world, including animals, like the cow is grazing grass, gives milk, a horse behaves like this. So the cow is according to Gaudharma, a horse behaves like Ashwadharma. So they are all fixed in their behavioral pattern. Nobody can jump out of that trajectory, is it not? Everything, even the earth is moving around the sun in a particular manner, and it cannot come out of that trajectory. So everything is behaving according to its dharma. Now the human beings are very unusual and uniquely unusual in the sense, even though I may know my dharma, my universal characteristics, for example, all the human beings will say, I should be truthful. So truthfulness is our desirable characteristics. That way we can say, we all human beings can agree that we should be truthful, is it not? But why is it not that we are always truthful? So that is where the unusual feature of human beings come into light, that we may have a desirable characteristics that we ought to exhibit, namely, say, truthfulness, but I have a freedom to behave contrary to it. No other things in the universe has a freedom to deviate from its dharma, but human beings have their freedom. So even though we have, maybe there is a manav dharma, there is a human dharma, which of course would be what is acceptable to the entire humanity. That is what is desirable. But we have the freedom to deviate from it. That's why we have a very important term in philosophy, Vedic philosophy, karma. So karma is something what eventually, finally I do. So this is action based. So my dharma, my inherent characteristics are quite fixed. That is what that dharma would expect from me. He has sent me into this world, and his expectations are humanism, the human dharma or mano dharma. But what I perform exactly at my discretion, whatever I have, though there are certain limitations, so I have freedom within a bunch of limitations, but finally what I execute is my karma. It is desired that my karma should be in accordance with the dharma, but sometimes I am, sometimes I am not, is it not? So there is a philosophy of karma. Last Monday, the whole session almost went in this direction, what related to philosophy of karma and law of karma, etc. So this is the basis of the whole philosophy of karma, that for all animals, etc., their karma is always aligned with their dharma. Actually, they don't do any karma. So they don't are judged according to the law of karma. But we are given with the freedom of thought, freedom of speech, freedom of action, that even though I know my dharma, which is not difficult to know, your inner voice is always there. That dharma is always guiding you. If you care to listen to that inner voice, he is always there. Well, if you ignore it, you habitually ignore it, then you may even say that there is no inner voice. But as a child, we all had an inner voice. And if we continue to be guided by it, then we are in the direction of the dharma. Otherwise, my karma may not be aligned with my dharma, and then I am accountable by that agency for the consequences of my karma, and that accountability is the law of karma. So, law of karma gives me a reward. It can be in the nature of positive and negative. If I do good karma, then it brings me happiness, sukh, etc. And if I do bad karma, so good karma is called as dharma, and bad karma is called adharma. And then Patanjali says, I bring the joy. He has in second chapter, Hilat Payita Phala. So these are the consequences, happiness and pain, consequences of what? When my karma is according to dharma, I am happy life. Otherwise, I will meet unhappiness. But of course, the time duration is not easy, that gestation period, when the reward of a particular karma will come. So that's why there is a lot of confusion. People don't, it is impossible to correlate. My today's happiness is due to what karma in the past, and they linger with me even after life. So, I am carrying on a kind of a ledger book for several life. So this is a very elaborate law of karma we are following. So this was a discussion last Monday, that what is the philosophy of dharma and karma and related issues. So I just brought it out this morning to get things going. If there are some questions consequent to this observation, then they are welcome. Of course, further observation could be, animals are also engaged in uh, for their survival. They also do all kinds of efforts to get food. They also have children and they have to raise them. They also care for a shelter. So many things they also do it. And human beings are also a significant part of our efforts are in the same direction, earning some money to be able to buy food and other essential things, raise our family, etc. So seemingly there is a lot of common features, the way we live and the way animals also live. So somebody may say, what is it? Are we also performing? Only we are performing karma, and what about their efforts? So this is a technical term, karma. It's in grammar we will say like I do this for my child, I bring food for my child. So here the subject is I. I am performing an action, a karma. And then we say a dog brings food for its child. Is it not? There is a comparable statement. So if I am doing something, what a dog is also doing it, why is it that my action is called as karma and his is not karma? So here one has to understand it that all other species are very much programmed. They do it, all the members of that particular species in that circumstance says will do the same thing. And whereas we will earn money in a different manner. Even there are people who will earn money in an illegitimate manner, is it not? So the seemingly the efforts are same. According to the grammar, dog does this, a human being does that. So from grammar point of view, seemingly both are doing an action, but we are not talking from grammar point of view. We are not talking from language point of view. We are talking from the philosophy of the law of karma. From the philosophy of law of karma, whatever dog does is not quite a karma. It is looks like an action, but it is merely an activity. It is not that it will be facing a consequence out of its action, because that's the way he is expected to do. He has been programmed to do like that. So he isn't doing, there was no discretion. If there is no discretion, there is no judgment can be made, is it not? Because I was left with no option. Whereas a human being has always multiple options and he has discretion to choose. That's where we are engaged in our intellectual faculty, discriminatory ability to decide, should I do this or that? Every moment we are confronted with these options. And the choice I make is finally my responsibility. And that is my karma. And then I have to be facing its consequence. And law of karma is not just to punish me. The purpose of law of karma is so that, like now, somebody did some foolish thing in China. They are eating some senseless stuff, is it not? Bat and snakes and cats and dogs and whatnot. So some kind of virus which was in some other cycle, which is nothing to do with human cycles, has penetrated into human beings. And we are all suffering because of that, is it not? So if somebody makes a wrong choice, as it is, humanity was on the wrong side. We were unnatural level 1. When we don't behave as an herbivore, the way we are designed by Dharma-Karma, our characteristics are by natural design, we are herbivores. As it is, billions of people are killing animals, and that was unnatural. And we already had a lot of pain and suffering. But now, because somebody in some country has gone unnatural level 2 and has eaten something which is not even typical carnivores will be eating, he has gone unnatural level too. And we all are not only that community, we all, because after all, it's an interconnected world. And this is our business to educate them. We failed that didn't educate them in time. So we are also suffering and they are also suffering. So this is law of karma. Sometimes the consequence comes immediate, sometimes it comes. In the meanwhile, there is a question. If I understood correctly, you say that the dharma transmitted through the inner voice that guides, can that also called intuition? These both words are very important, but they are in different context. Inner voice is heard by all of us, all the human beings. Intuition is heard by some people who are good in meditation, or they may not be doing meditation in a formal sense, but once in a while they are with a calm mind and they capture a flash. Like Newton captured a flash seeing that apple is falling, is it not? So intuition is selective. It comes to somebody, you can say some chosen ones, whatever it is. Whereas inner voice is default. By default, every human being gets it. But the source is the same. That comes from that same Dharma-Raj, the true knowledge, who is most interested in our well-being. So he would always guide us. So as default, he guides all of us via that conscience, which we call inner voice. And then there are some people who habitually ignore that inner voice, then that inner voice is also missing. But otherwise, it was there for every human being. No human being can deny it. But intuition is selective. So that was the answer to this question. We have some 10 minutes more. If you have a question, then you can put forth. This is the right time. There is another question now. Do you think that the current situation of the corona pandemic may be a chance for a kind of spiritual evolution to bring more awareness to people, their behavior, their choices? Perhaps a chance to return to a more natural behavior also. Actually, every moment is a good chance, but this is now a really good chance because even common man has been forced to stay home. It's time to reflect upon things and what has caused all these senseless things that we are imprisoned in our own homes. I think even a common man will be now receptive and he will think something. And that's why, like such kind of sessions we have started so that people use this hour to reflect upon it, to do some kind of introspection, like climate warming, all that was happening. But now what has happened is a very higher order effect. Thousands of people have died, and so many people are suffering in the hospitals or even in their homes. So this is a occasion to think why there is so much of pain. Uh, you know, we are born a child by nature, always smiling. That is his default state. Why does it happen that when we grow up, we find ourselves with so much of pain and suffering? Of course, there is law of karma. If there is anything wrong with us, it is of my making. I shouldn't blame others. So this is a time to, yes, I fully agree with this, that of course there are overall very positive signs in the world. People, young people are, particularly young people, They are concerned about food habits. They are becoming vegetarian. Everybody was go-getter, fast life, but now a lot of people want to calm, sit down and meditate.
Uh,
If you don't have control over your mind, how can you control others? So a good success story begins with your ownership of your mind, and that is a good test. Can you bring your mind quiet, calm at certain moments? If you cannot, you have no business to rule others. You have no business to become prime minister or president if you cannot rule even your own mind. So we need a very new kind of people, new kind of leaders who have different way of to think and who can guide the humanity in a very different manner. Somebody is saying he has to go. Sorry to see you go, but no problem. Everybody has his commitments. Any other question at this point? We have some 5 or 6 more minutes. Do you have regular online meditation sessions going? A good question. I have scheduled it from next Friday. This is our Houston time is 11 a.m. So from next week onward at 10:30 we will have meditation. So whatever was time when you joined this session, if you join half an hour earlier, that will have a different link, and maybe I will send it out to you one way or another. So you will have that link also, and you can join. So there will be two different links, two different session, independent session, but they are very close to each other. So half an hour before this session, so we will have about 20 minutes meditation, and then I will switch over to this question answer session. Okay, I think we have discussed quite a bit. We are close to the end of the hour, and I want to thank you all. Well, there is a new person, I don't know. Uh, there is a new person who has just joined. I'm not sure. There might have been some confusion about time, etc. But if the gentleman has a question, he can quickly put forth. Otherwise, we are calling it off. And I again want to thank you all for joining this session. See you next week. Monday evening also I meet, but that is 8 p.m. Houston time. That may not be good time for Europe, but it's good probably for North America and India and other Eastern countries like Australia, etc. Thank you very much and see you again.